So the podcast is back. I think it's been 3 years maybe since we did the last one, but back certainly for a series of classic Antepost podcasts, starting with the Newmarket 2000 Guineas and maybe longer. Let's see how it goes. We're going to get straight into it. So 2000 Guineas, what tools do you need to win the 2000 Guineas, James? Like, what does a potential Guineas winner look like, run like, have kind of the pedigree from?
Well, obviously, you need a lot of class. You need a touch of stamina and a touch of speed, and a nice, well-blended horse, one that can handle the undulations of Newmarket. Yeah, so you need plenty. Pedigree-wise, it can be a mixture, but I mean, we've seen Dabawi have a lot of success recently in the recent renewals of the 2000 Guineas. So he's normally a good starting point, but I don't think we have many Dabawis this year. Obviously, he's getting older. So potentially maybe one of his sons could provide the answer. But yeah.
Changing of the guard. Why is the 2014 2000 Guineas a nice mirror or a nice feed-in for this year's 2000 Guineas? Quiz question, do you know the answer?
2014, I'm going to guess that was Kingman and Knight of Thunder's 1-2.
Yeah, it was Kingman and Knight of Thunder's 1-2, and I think at least the first three in the betting by either Knight of Thunder or Kingman, aren't they? So
yeah,
that is kind of a changing of the guard a little bit. I think Dubois is getting past the kind of the age curve and in terms of elite stallion production, and you see very much Knight of Thunder and Kingman coming through. And who would have thought that Knight of Thunder would be a better racehorse than Kingman and B, a better stallion than Kingman?
Well, I don't think he was a better racehorse. I know he won that Guineas, but he wasn't a better racehorse.
Definitely a better stallion, though.
That's harsh on Kingman. Kingman's been a good stallion, and Knight of Thunder's had a good couple of years, the last few years, but Kingman, very solid.
Knight of Thunder's the next elite. He's the next Dubois is the next.
Well, he already is. Yeah, he already is.
We talk about a little bit about the tools and what do we mean by that. It means kind of the mechanics that you need to win the 2000 Guineas. And so what you'd hear on a lot of podcasts is kind of talk about, I don't know, previous form, the results and all that type of stuff. I don't like form. You can do a bit of form later on, but we're going to go deep into the stride analysis, and I know a lot of people are doing this really well these days, and Kevin Blake does it really well. Simon Rowlands has been doing it really well for years, and Adam Mills does some really nice blogs for TPD. But we thought we'd do our own kind of take on the stride analysis. James does a lot, section analysis, stride analysis, and his own kind of personal tipping groups. There's a lot of data here. This is all freely available from TPD on other races and Race IQ on Racing TV. So credit to them for kind of compiling and publishing that data and making it publicly available so that you can do this type of analysis. James, you talked about it a bit at the start, but so when we look at, let's start with stride frequency. And what stride frequency is effectively how quickly the horses turn over their legs. So it's kind of how many strides per second a horse does. Why that's important, maybe for some people if you're watching and you haven't been too deep into the stride analysis in the past. Now, so every stride is a breath. So if you think about every rotation of the legs, you can actually monitor it by every head movement. So kind of every head bob up and down is also a stride, and it's kind of just the natural rhythmic gait of a horse. But why that's important is because every stride is a breath. So you get a breath then into the cardiovascular system of the horse that oxygenates the blood, and that helps with kind of stamina and sustainment. It's particularly important when you're trying to see out a trip, for how oxygenated you can get the blood. That isn't my statement that every stride's a breath. That actually comes from someone else who taught me that, but that's why it's important from a respiratory perspective and mechanic perspective for a horse. James, looking at frequency, what type of frequencies are interesting for a Guineas profile? And maybe any interesting frequencies that we've seen already for from some horses so far, and then I'll go through some of the data that's plotted on the page as well.
Yeah, well, obviously the Guineas is over a mile, and you can get horses that are going to win a Guineas or run well in the Guineas and then going to progress to maybe run over 10 furlongs or even 12 furlongs. As obviously we saw See the Stars, he won a Guineas, then was able to go and win a Derby. So I think you can get different stride frequencies that win a Guineas. We saw 2 years ago, Notable Speech won a Guineas, and if you just based him purely on stride data, you would say there was no way he would get the mile. I think his max strides per second, I've got it tallied as 2.59, which I
Yeah,
mean
I've got
that's
2.53 up here, but that's probably an average. But yeah, it was an
yeah.
outlier kind of frequency cadence profile. And that's also why they put double speech back towards the July Cup as a 4-year-old, wasn't it? But yeah, definitely an outlier in profile.
Yeah, definitely, and you know what? That's probably why he was really suited to winning the Breeders' Cup, because they obviously have it's a very tight track, and as soon as they turn off that bend, it's a short running, and he can get his frequency going faster than most horses. The fact that he was able to win a well-run Guineas on a straight mile is quite impressive, really. But funnily enough, the second in that race was Alien. He also strided, not quite his cadence wasn't as high, but it was borderline seven furlong horse, really. So I don't know, maybe that Guinea is just maybe a bit of an anomaly, but you tend to want to be around the 2.2567 as a min, and then as a max you want to be around 2.38, 37. That's probably ideal. Obviously you can give you a bit lower, you can be a bit higher. It's not a perfect science. It's just another tool to use in your analysis.
Yeah, I'd have a bit of a broader range than you, but I'd go like 2.3 to maybe 2.45. There's a couple on there just if I zoom in because I don't know if it's viewable. Ruling Call, the stride data from his 2000 Guineas win in Maidan, 2.36. Caldine actually didn't have any frequency data before the 2000 Guineas, but afterwards, say from the St. James's Palace, 2.31. I think you're looking at this like 2.3, 2.45 range. And if we look at a couple, so what we then did is we then put this on a range on the chart. And I mean, ignore the Champagne stakes. The stride data looked all over the place for that. I'm not even sure if that was a bit of an error. But like this Golden Pathway is like spot on. So Goan is really fitting the striding profile. Bo Echo was in the maiden, but in the ascendant wasn't. But that seemed to be a very low frequency race. I think due to the pace of the race. Crown Relic fits it. Lifepan fits it. I really like King's Trail overall, and we'll talk a little bit more when we get to Pedigree, but maybe the stride cadence is a little bit about outside of the optimal. Octagon, I think, is a big thing with a massive stride length. In the Sky, got a bit found out in the Mill Reef, but has a massive stride length and has scope, I think, to improve this year. That's Notable Speech, which was totally kind of within that's why 2.35 to 2.55, but was at the high end of the threshold. Caldine and Ruling Court, like absolutely spot on pretty much to the threshold that we've been mentioning before. So that's a little bit on frequency. Simon Rowlands also done a lot of good publications on it. This was Simon Rowlands' scale. Maybe our scale will be slightly different, but he looks for kind of these elite milers, or certainly in this article, he looked at elite milers between 2.4 and 2.5, and then Derby winners between 2.15 and 2.35. But as said, it's a range, and it's kind of a barometer of kind of potential fit, not an exact science, but it's useful in terms of.
I think what Roland was doing with that chart, because I remember it a few years ago, he was obviously at the time, Two Down Hot was either had run or was about to run in the Dante.
Yeah.
And basically, Simon Rowlands was saying that due to the stride frequency, there's not much chance of him staying the Derby trip, which was, I mean, I think he was second in the Dante, but then obviously they came back, and I think he even ran over 7 furlongs after that. So he was just pointing out I mean, this was before became a bigger thing. But yeah, he was pointing out how he two down hot. Although the pedigree suggests that he could potentially stay the Derby trip, his striding was in fact the complete opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting horse, maybe both from a betting market perspective and from a striding perspective is Publish. I think Publish is now 4-1 in the Antepost market, which seems a little bit crazy. You're looking at the last run was the Ascendant Stakes, which is only this class. Was second behind Bo Echo there. And kind of travelled from the back of the field really strong late on and put in some good sectionals. But we had a little bit of a prep conversation about Publish yesterday. Size, scope, frequency, potential. And maybe you want to say a couple of words about Publish?
Yeah, I think that Haydock race where Bo Echo beat him, you've got to take it with a bit of pinch of salt. It was slowly run to begin with and just turned into a sprint. Publish was poorly placed. Bo Echo was in a much better position. I think Publish recorded sort of his penultimate furlong was like around a 10.6 something, which is very fast at the end of a mile race, and obviously used a lot of energy to go from the 2 to the 1 to catch up to Bo Echo, and then Bo Echo was just able to pull a little bit more out, obviously because he hadn't used that much energy himself with it being slowly run. And obviously when a race is slowly run, especially when it's very slowly run, the horse's stride will be longer and the frequency will be less because they're just going slower. It's the same as when they tired at the end of the race, the length will shorten, as will the frequency, because they're just not running as fast. Though Publish, he did a lot to catch up to Bo Echo, and Bo Echo pulled apart. I think the main thing to take out of that race is just how much bigger Publish is than Bo Echo. I think he's got so much more scope to improve as a 3-year-old, but I do think both of them are not a very good price at the moment, especially Publish. Because even if you look at his Sandown run where he beat Catalyst, the Godolphin horse, I mean, he's only mid-90s and he was really made to work and only won by about a length and a 3/4 or something. So he definitely hasn't got the form. I think he must have been doing something at home, but I think people are reading into a lot of what happened with Field of Gold last year as well, to be honest.
Publish is a very hard one for me to make sense of. Whereas, so like I know we said it was a slowly run race, so perhaps the frequency is compressed a little bit, but frequency there was like 2.17 or 2.18. Now, I mean, my interpretation about a slowly run race is that it would be a slow early pace, but then to win it, you'd have to have a fast finishing kick. You'd have to show late acceleration. And now there you would expect to then see the frequency kind of propel and the legs to turn over quicker to deliver the finishing quick. I'm quite amazed that you don't see that in the stride data for publishing that race. I'm also then amazed that in that lightning sectional that he did it by length rather than frequency. So that's like a totally freakish performance.
His frequency did go up to 2.39.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't like he was doing that
on it. Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't doing that with the low frequency. And if you look at his Sandown run, it's similar, and that's a much more honestly run race. So his minimum frequency was 2.11, which again is very low. Average was 2.19, and max is 2.32. And that finishing speed percentage that day was 103.42. Obviously, Sandown's got a slight incline to finish, but I mean, it's still a much more honestly run race. But he's shown there that he's just got the ability to really relax that frequency. But he is a big horse as well, and I wonder if that's playing into the stride.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it will be. I mean, you will see it in another chart. Actually, you'll see often between horse size and then stride length and stride cadence, you'll see a relationship between them.
It's quite funny actually, because obviously Constitution Hill's been running recently, and he does similar. He's around a 2.15 average, but he can kick it up to 2.39. And funnily enough, Calandagan does very similar.
Yeah, and
So potentially,
I know Constitution Hill's a 9-year-old, but what trip's he running over versus what trip are we talking about published running over here? Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah,
2.39
exactly.
isn't super high when you look at the context of that notable speech, 2.55 or whatever. Yeah.
Publish is a weird one, isn't he? Because obviously it's by Kingman as well, and he's out of a no nay never dam on the on the other side. I mean, the pedigree says 7, 8 furlongs, but the striding's not saying it. So he's a funny one. But you do get these anomalies. As I said, it's not perfect science, is it?
Yeah, the stride and the saying like 12 furlong and beyond. So that's interesting, but probably not at 4 to 1 at the moment. Yeah, bet on stride length. So what we observe is that, I mean, stride frequency is related to distance preference, and a lot of people have, and the aforementioned people have wrote about that. What we do observe is that stride length does relate to kind of performance level and ability level. I mean, it's just a kind of natural mechanic advantage that if you have a longer stride length than your competitors, you're able to cover more ground, you're able to take less breaths, and that translates in terms of being able to win races. Like, think of Usain Bolt as a sprinter. Like, he wasn't the quickest sprinter out of the blocks, but once he got up to running speed, then he was able to dominate races just through the absolute reach in his stride length. That's just a full kind of view of all of the publicly available stride lengths on these horses. I mean, at the top end, you've got Into the Sky in that dominant maiden win was like 25.49 feet. Oxygen, massive in the Champagne, 25.87 feet. So these are big horses. You can see the goal bars there, like some of the previous winners we pulled out, like Ruling Court, Notable Speech, Caldine. Not massive stride lengths, probably because you'd see those massive stride lengths on the 12 furlong horses. And so the 8 furlong horse probably has to be a nice balance between a bit of frequency and a good enough stride length. Pretty much anything across the horse population that's over 23 feet is getting pretty elite. And actually, a lot of these horses are already at high levels. They're already at that kind of 23 feet and beyond mark. This is then my little final chart on stride length and stride frequency. So we did a matrix and we looked at, of the available frequency data and of the available stride length data, what was the winning zone. And there you can see like the winning zone box kind of defined by notable speech, Ruling Court, Caldine, or Caldoon, however you want to pronounce it. So who's in the winning box on stride data? Goan, Bull Echo, Pacific Avenue, Crown Relic. A couple of others are out. I just think Into the Sky, Oxygen are just not Alpazlan are just not fits for me. And there's a couple quite close that I think we both like. I think you like Talk of New York, who we'll talk about later, and I really like King's Trail, that we'll talk about later as well. But yeah, a little bit on stride fit there. Did a bit on late speed and acceleration as well. I think you talked. My memory of recent 2000 Guineas is of Godolphin horses sitting mid-div or prominent and then coming out of the pack late. Is that a fair summary? That you basically travel mid-division and then you show late finishing kick to win a Guinea?
Yeah. Definitely the last two, yeah. Well, I think Notable Speech was held up actually. Yeah, Ruling Court was around mid division. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You normally just see the kind of the blue of the Golfin flashing through. So again, that's just looking at some acceleration profiles that who's shown late speed acceleration, progressive late sectionals, and yeah, Bo Echo scores well on that. King's Trail scores well on that, very unexposed to maiden and novice runs. Actually, no, the last one was a condition stakes, wasn't it? It was class 2. You can see the fits there of Ruling Court, etc., etc. James, anything else to say on striding before we do something else?
I just think that box you put up on the previous slide, I just think it's slightly, I think it's a little bit too high just because Notable Speech, I know he's in it, so he's a winner, but I just think he brings that box up a little bit too high for me.
He probably does when you're using a sample of 4 as well.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You've got an outlier and then the outlier is skewing the sample of 4.
I would be more the Caldine, Ruling Court kind of numbers, definitely.
Also wanted to look at something like a historical race pathways, and looking at like the impact values of them. So I mean, if you look at where the kind of historic winners of the 2000 Guineas have come from. This is, I think, the last 20 years or something. Craven Stakes, 65 runners, 2 winners. Dewhurst, 56 runners, 3 winners. Greenham, 56 runners, 3 winners. I think they announced today that Gawan's going to the Greenham as a prep, isn't he? European Free Handicap, 27 runners, 0 winners. Maturity, 22 runners, 4 winners. Middle Park, 19 runners, no winners. National Stakes, 15 runners, 3 winners, etc., etc. That means just the preceding prep race. So they might have come through that pathway, but it means basically the last run before the Guineas. I quite liked, and I'm just going to keep banging on about him. I like that Charlie Appleby has used the same prep for King's Trail as he did for Notable Speech. So sent Notable Speech to this 1 mile conditions race, which is the Class 2 race at Kempton, that was on the 28th of March. Notable Speech won that race, was it 2 years ago? Notable Speech was the same price, was 4 to 7 as King's Trail. I know that doesn't really matter. Completely different fields. But I like that Charlie Appleby's put King's Speech on the King's Trail on the Notable Speech kind of prep pathway for the Guineas. So that was showing up well for me. And if you look at some of the impact values on some of the other races, which is basically how many winners came out of how many competitors they have, what shows up well, Futurity, National Stakes, scoring very well as well. James, anything you would have on form or anything you would have on the significant prep races that might be informative as we step forward?
One thing I would just say about that Kempton race, the year Notable Speech won it, Godolphin literally had nothing as a 2-year-old for the Guineas. And he was clearly just a bit of a later maturer, and they just kept running him on the all-weather, and that was their only horse they had for the Guineas. So that's probably just coincidence. Whereas this year they've got a Dewhurst third, they've got Talk of New York, who's been talked up loads. They've got Hidden Force, who's a very similar path to King's Trail. So they've got 4 potential runners, whereas the Notable Speech they didn't really have any. But yeah, no, I'm surprised about the Dewhurst being quite.
Just a lot of runners is the thing. Well, like it harms the impact value because you can only have 1 winner.
Yeah, the Futurity. I think that's I was annoyed last year that although Ballydoyle have had a recent bad record in the Guineas, they were second in the Futurity with Delacroix last year. And obviously, all last year, even though they were ran him in the Derby, I was banging on Twitter saying how this horse it does not want to be going anywhere near 12 furlongs. 10 furlongs is an absolute max, and I would have loved to have seen him over a mile. I think Ryan Moore's kept saying they should run him over a mile as well, but they never did. But I think if he'd gone to the Guineas like with a proper prep, I think he could have won it last year. And obviously, he beat Ruling Court in the he was ahead of him in the Eclipse. And he obviously showed he was a top class horse, and he might have won that Guineas anyway. So yeah, I don't mind the Futurity, although sometimes it's obviously run on really bad ground, and it can be more of a race which more Derby types come out of. But yeah, do you want me to transform or?
Yeah, well, we can skip the charts now. Let's do Pedigree. Were you expecting to see a picture of Sydney Sweeney?
I wasn't actually, no.
Yeah. Who's got great genes is the Pedigree section. Do you know this was a controversial advert?
Yeah.
Not
allowed to have a cracking rack.
Yeah, not allowed to be too fit and advertise jeans anymore. If we look at Pedigree, maybe let's go to one of yours if that's all right, because I think you like the form and the Pedigree. We've referenced Talk of New York a couple of times without going deeper. What can you say about Talk of New York?
Yeah, although he was beaten and made, and I still do really like Talk of New York. I've tipped him up in my free group and tipping groups. So he's by Wootton Bassett. Although he died last year, didn't he? But you would associate him more with Ballydoyle. So it's quite interesting in that Godolphin have got what could be one of his better progeny. But he's out of a Godolphin dam called Usherette. Now she was top class. She was a Group 1 winner? She was rated 118. I know that. She was a Group 2 winner. She didn't actually win a Group 1. Yeah, she's got he's got loads of class on both sides of the pedigree. The dam produced Star Guest, who wasn't as good, he was what, 90, high 90s. So she hasn't actually produced a stakes performer yet, but Talking New York looks like he's gonna change that. He was very eye catching on debut at Kempton. Some really impressive closing sectionals, but what was more impressive was the overall time. So we've got loads of data from, because Godolphin love to use these Kempton novices at the back end of the year for some of their later maturing types. And although it's not like you shouldn't really compare times over different races and years, basically going back. But it's
You
Kempton.
definitely shouldn't.
No, you definitely shouldn't. But it's Kempton. It's an all-weather surface. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it should be similar ground, and it's the measurements don't change at all.
Well, it
But
depends what the going allowance was on the day. But anyway, continue.
Well, no, okay, take it with a pinch of salt. But I mean, he put in a 10.95 penultimate furlong and an 11.3 completely eased down final furlong. So he's clearly got gears to burn. And then he went over to Maidan. Was a short price to win the race that Ruling Court won last year, but he was just way too keen early. They decided to hold him up from a wide draw. He wouldn't settle for about 2 furlongs, and William Buick he's gone so wide on the bend. He's already started wide and then gets pushed further wide, and he's trying to make up the ground just hard on the bridle. He does not want to give this horse a hard time at all. And he catches them up. It's really eye catching. And he just runs out of steam in the last furlong. He only gets a couple of taps. As I said, Buick was at pains not to give this horse a hard time. And the horse that won had been running in Maidan and is a really nice horse himself. I think he's going for the Greenham title role. So yeah, although he was beaten, I mean, Pacific Avenue was a nose ahead of him in second. He's got form with, he was running the Dewhurst. I think he was 6th in the Dewhurst. There's no doubt that Talking New York will improve past him easily. Godolphin clearly think this is the number one. They just need to get him to settle. It wouldn't surprise me if they do what they did with Master of the Seas. He was a short price favourite to win that race at Maidan. He didn't. He came home. They put a hood on him in the Craven. He won the Craven, and then he was just touched off in the 2000 Guineas by Poetic Flair. I can see them putting a hood on. If they go to the Craven, I can see them putting a hood on Talking New York, and then we will really find out if he's got the credentials for the 2000 Guineas. I think that Craven is going to be the key race. Publisher's supposed to be going there as well. I don't know what else is, but I know them two are. And one of them's 4-1, and the other one I like for the Guineas. So, yeah, I think he had all the excuses in the world on that Maidan start. And obviously, it was only his second start as well. He was up against much more experienced horses. But yeah, I'm definitely not giving up on him. I really like him.
Because that kind of Maidan pathway used to be frowned upon a couple of years ago. It was kind of seen that the serious Godolphin classic challenges didn't go out to Maidan for the winter, but that's flipped in recent years, hasn't it? You mentioned Master of the Season. It was exactly the Ruling Court kind of pathway as well. So I think that kind of, I don't know, theory has died now.
I think with Master of the Seas, he had quite a bit of experience as well. It was about his, maybe, I can't remember exactly, but maybe 6th start, his Maidan start. And Ruling Court had placed in the A-Come at York, so he'd already had group level form as well. Obviously, Talking New York was going there off just a novice run. So yeah, they need to teach him to settle for sure. But the way Charlie Appleby was talking about him, I know you can take what trainers say with however you like, but he was the way he was talking about him. They think this is a machine, but he's got to settle on his striding as well. I think his striding is absolutely ideal for a mile. A min of 2.2, averages 2.33, max of 2.38. Bang where you want it, in my opinion. Yeah, and he just looks $1 million as well. I know you're probably not bothered about that, but he does look like an absolute specimen of a horse.
Should we do a couple of the other principles then?
So, yeah, run through
Yeah, maybe I'll do one and you can chip in, and then we'll kind of flip each time. Gawan, we haven't talked about. Gawan's currently the favorite, isn't he? So Night of Thunder.
No, Boeco's the favourite.
Black Eagles the favorite now, okay. But the
Yeah.
Gawan Night of Thunder, Grey Mystery, or Grey Mystery, however you want to
Yeah.
pronounce it. She was 98 rated in France. Lethal Force. I'm not sure how common it's but Lethal Force is a rude mess either, but that's probably by the by. He was fairly cheap coming out of the breeze ups. I think he was only €80,000, so they've done very, very well with him. The second dam was good. Crew Cake, she had a good progeny. Jalia rated her 108. Interesting to see that Gawan's now been bought by Yulong. Yulong now go under the moniker of Force Europe Limited in Europe, but that is Yulong, Mr. Jia. They bought Gawan, I think, over the autumn off Al Raban, Bloodstock or Al Raban Racing. So will effectively be one of the leading runners for Yulong or Force Europe this season. It's probably unfair that we haven't really mentioned Gawan because the Dewhurst winner, the time form rating was really good at 118. The time figure also backed it up. It was 115. So like it's strong form. It's very strong prep race. The time is also good. Just seems a bit unfashionable. I can't bring myself to love Gawan because I can't get so excited if Gawan was the winner of the 2000 Guineas, but on like known form, absolutely deserves to be right there at the front of the race and the front of the market. I mean, B just started in the Dewhurst and just started subsequently went out and won the Breeders' Cup juvenile race in the US. So there's probably not really, we probably shouldn't be crabbing Gawan too much, but I just can't bring myself to be too excited by him. What do you think about Gawan?
Yeah, I think the three, the 1, 2, 3 and the Dewhurst, you can put them as a collective. Really, there wasn't a lot between them. Very similar on the sectionals. Distant Storm for Godolphin, probably just a little bit too far back. The weird thing about that Dewhurst was it was run on good to firm ground in the middle of October. And you know, at Newmarket, like you want to be on the front end, especially on fast ground. Gawan was the best place of those three. Gestard, I think, maybe had the quickest final furlong, but it was like a couple of split seconds between them. So they're clearly very evenly matched, all three of them, I would say. Um, and that kind of just puts you off, doesn't it? It makes you think, oh, well, none of them are a star. And you'd like to think, well, they are stars, obviously, you know what I mean? But they're not like, you'd like to think something could improve past them this year. I'm not sure how Publish and Boeco are shorter prices than Gowan, Gastard, and Distant Storm, though. That doesn't make sense to me because that's Group 1 form. Boeco won a Group 2. Publish is listed placed. Like, so, yeah. So that is. I mean, I've not backed any of these because I'm just of the opinion that I think something can improve past them.
We're also suckers for improvers, aren't we?
Yeah,
We
but
love an improver and we love an unexposed horse that could improve rather than, well, I don't like established forms.
yeah. But that's the name of the game, isn't it? Finding the improvement before the bookies find the improvement or see the improvement or whatever. That's kind of what my punting is based around. But you were the one who put me onto that years and years and years ago anyway. So yeah, so them the Gawan, Gaston, Distant Storm, they bring solid form, and I personally think I would rather back one of them than Publish or Boeco. I also think Boeco is really small. I just don't see how he's going to train on as well as some of these other horses. It is there all on paper. The pedigree is nice enough. Stride data is fine. He's already won at Newmarket over a mile anyway, so you're not questioning him getting the trip or liking the course. It is all very solid. I just don't think one he's going to train on that well, and I'm not sure how good. I think that the Dewhurst form is better than that Group 2 Royal Lodge form for me.
I think, yeah, on Gestad as well. I mean, you've also got the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf form and like one.
I think that was a crap race.
Yeah, but like it's done it really well. It was like hands and heels.
Yeah, he did, but I think that was probably
very wide trip. Didn't sell in the Dewhurst, which probably kind of did for him, and probably got him. I have a point on Gestad though that I'd like to take him on for. I'm just looking for angles to take horses on, and this is a really tenuous one, but I still like it. So Gestad's dam is Morsa Mine. Now Morsa Mine was also the dam of Van Dijk. If we remember Van Dijk was a super elite 2-year-old. Won the Middle Park as a 2-year-old. Did he train on? Not really. Well, no. Basically, he had 2 runs at 3-year-old, then retired. I mean, he wasn't a disaster. He was third in the Sandy Lane and the July Cup, but he ran 2 ratings of 199 as a 3-year-old, and he never reached anything like he did as a 2-year-old, which was 107 and 105. Star Spangled Banner, of course, a bit different than Havana Grey. You'd be getting a kind of average winning distance out of Star Spangled Banners, probably approaching 8 furlongs. But I'm just going to use that as a little angle for a horse at the front of the market that has elite but exposed 2-year-old form. The other progeny out the dam was super elite but didn't train on. So I'm going to use that as a little bit of an excuse to take on Gustave.
It's actually quite surprising that Gustave is staying so well. Obviously, Star Spangled Banner sprinter. The Dam, the Dam wasn't a very good racehorse. She was rated in the 50s.
Yeah. So Banner's also elite producer.
Yeah, but also a 5 furlong horse.
Mm.
But and again on the Gustave's stride data, you would probably say he'd get 10.
Yeah, I think the Star Spangled Banners stay though. I know he
Yeah.
himself wasn't kind of of that.
Yeah, well, he
I do
gets a
think
mix.
they can certainly get a mile.
He's like Button Bassett. Button Bassett can get anything, but he was a sprinter.
You can get a bloody 5 furlong 2-year-old out of Wotton Bassett and a Derby horse. It's
Exactly. Yeah. There's one horse who's been probably the biggest talking horse of the 2000 Guineas. We've not even mentioned it yet.
Go on.
Albert Einstein.
Oh, not worth a mention. Go on, let's talk about Albert.
No, I was going to ask you what your thoughts on Albert Einstein were.
Well, I just think Aidan O'Brien's been putting the people away every March for years, and Aidan O'Brien has put people away again in March. So I think you could. It's weird, right? I think you could just tell from the narrative that they knew he was a sprinter, and it's weird. It's almost because of the stallion making machine that they are. They feel they're compelled to go for the Guineas. They do have those equimetrics trackers though, and they do put all of the wearables on the horses. So they will know exactly all of his striding data, all of his heart rate data, all of his recovery data. So anything that we know in the public domain is not even a percentage dot of what Coolmore will know in house. But just everything we saw from Albert Einstein early on, and the fact that he was off track for such a long period of time. Maybe that was a prep race the other day, but I mean, I couldn't be convinced to list him as a candidate on an Antepost podcast. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I think what obviously he was talking him up early last year around this time of year, and he did come out and he won 2 races, won the Group 3. He was probably just a really early 2-year-old. I think he's a January fall as well. He was probably just bigger and more mature than the rest. So clearly he was better than them. But you're talking about May in a 2-year-old campaign. So maybe then maybe because he didn't run again, they've got that impression that he was the best at the time. But how could you know? Especially when he was like, "Oh yeah, we're not pushing any buttons at home" and all this kind of stuff. But it is just it's just the marketing machine, isn't it? And also he's Wotton Bassett, isn't he? Obviously, Wotton Bassett died last year. They need a replacement.
Yeah.
So I always think that plays a part. But I did think it was a bit funny that he came out and was just. I mean, he was bad in that.
It's also a bizarre prep race. What was the ground was heavy, wasn't it?
It was really bad ground against older horses. Didn't really. I don't know why not wait to go for the Greenham or something, a nice flat track at Newbury, 7 furlongs. Do you know what I mean? Like the ground be a bit better, but I don't know. I'm not going to question Aidan O'Brien, but. Yeah, I mean they ran Camille Pizarro in that last year and he got beat. He was second. He ran all right, and then he won a French Guineas and a French Derby. So maybe they just thought we've got to run him. Let's run him here. Yeah. But it was disappointing. Yeah, I wouldn't have. I mean, even when I was doing my Antepost stuff for this in February, he was 10-1, and I thought that was an awful price then. So when he was 7-2, I mean that was just outrageous. But yeah, anyway, people fell for it. So.
We haven't talked about another Aidan O'Brien horse, the futurity winner, Hawk Mountain, out of Hydrangea.
I don't think he goes. That's why.
Or does he not go? He's still entered.
Yeah, he's entered, but they have loads entered on. I think French Derby is his aim potentially.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
He's
Wotton Bassett as well, isn't he? Out of Hydrangea. Yeah. Obviously, she won the Champion Stakes over 12, so probably Derby.
Yeah, I think on. I remember doing a bit on the futurity, because I liked one of them for the Derby, and I had Hawk Mountain, the 10 furlong horse on the striding. So French Derby would make sense.
Yeah. Any other key principles to talk about?
Puerto Rico probably goes France, 2000 guineas. Distant Storm, again, we covered in the Dewhurst bit. You need to speak about King's Trail because you like him. The Hidden Force is very similar to King's Trail. Pedigree wise as well. I think both of them, especially the one you like, is going to get further.
Yeah, he is. That's the
There's
point.
there's a horse running tomorrow at Newcastle in the Burden. Billy Cart for Amor.
Mm.
He was third in a novice that Distant Storm won, and Constitution River was second. Obviously, both have come out and won group races since. That novice is like the best novice that was ran last year in terms of form. Carl Burke's apparently been waxing lyrical about this horse, really likes him. He won a novice a few weeks ago easily, but he's back in the Burden. So if he wins that well, he could be a live outsider. I had a nibble at 100 to 1. And I mean a nibble, like not very much, but I'll be watching him tomorrow. You'd want to see him, but I mean it's a good race. There's plenty of like 100 horses.
Say the name again.
Billy Cart?
No.
Yeah. I'm not sure what price he is now, but he was 100 last when I checked a few weeks ago. But yeah.
The reason I banged on about King's Trail, and yeah, might want further. But I said I'm a sucker for a less exposed horse that could potentially improve. Even though you've now called it out, but I did like that Notable Speech pathway and King's Trail being on the same pathway. See the stars out of 108 rate to Bowie Mare Crown Walk. She was very good, not super elite, but she was a Group 3 winner at 3-year-olds in the Prix over in France. She did stay 9.5 furlongs though, so I think see the stars out of a mare that's staying 9.5 furlongs, that might be 10 furlong, 12 furlong territory rather than the Guineas.
What was the stride date?
The stride there was a bit below my little quadrant. It was very close to top of New York. It was on all very similar striding profiles. But yeah, I was getting excited by King's Trail, and it was the only one that's really leaping out to me. And so we both.
I think at least with horses like that, the Guineas can be run at such a pace. You know, a horse like that is gonna be strong at the line. He's gonna be finishing well. It's constantly a race that's ran to like 100% or even less. So you do need to stay that mile well. Obviously, it's a straight mile as well. It's harder to stay than a turning mile.
So what price? So yours? So they're both the golfing selections. What price is Talk of New York currently?
I think he's around 14s. 14 to 1.
So 14, Talk of New York, 14's for you, and King's Trail for me, who's also about 14s, I think, isn't he? It's 25 maybe.
I think he's come in a bit since then.
Is he?
I mean, it'll be interesting to see who actually runs.
Price anyway.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who actually runs for Godolphin, because Distant Storm, I mean, he's surely going to run because he was third in the Dewhurst. So he's got the form. He's got the most experience of theirs. Like he could still be the number one. Really?
Didn't even mention it.
No, well, I tried to bunch him with that Dewhurst form, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see one, because they've got 4, because Hidden Force as well. You can't imagine all 4 going to go. Surely one goes to France, and then one might go to Ireland. I reckon they'll run 2, and I don't know if they'll run yours.
Yeah, King's Trail is 16s. Talk of New York, 16.
I think a lot
is actually the shortest.
Yeah, I think a lot depends on the Craven. If Talk of New York runs in the Craven and wins, he'll be favourite for the whole thing, in my opinion. I think the key is the Craven. In fact, whoever wins the Craven will win the Guineas. You heard it here first.
Good. We'll end it there. If it was good, we'll do it again. Do you just want to introduce yourself and maybe where people can find you if they like that high caliber analysis?
Well, I hope I don't need to introduce myself. We've been doing this for a long time, even if there's been a bit of hiatus.
Yeah, you know, some new people that weren't into racing 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, James Dunkley on X, as it's called now. Yeah, I run a paid subscription group. Been doing it for 7 years now, starting in 2019. Profit every year. It's analysis as well as tips, and it's concentrated on sort of more high quality racing most of the time, focusing on the flat. And yeah, probably average around between 50, 60 tips a month. So yeah, it's £30 a month.
Thanks. I only asked for an introduction, not the full the sales growth, yeah. But, no, very good. Yeah, and I'm Tom Wilson. I write a blog. so you can find me on the blog. Yeah, but thanks for listening. This is the first one. We'll do more of these, so there'll be
The, ne-
a
the
series.
next one will be bringing back beers and maybe not do it in the middle of the day for some fun.
King's Trail wins the Guineas. We'll do the Derby one with beers.
Talk of New York's going to win the Guineas, so
I tell you what, if Talk of New York wins the Craven,
yeah.
do the 1000 Guineas preview with beers.
Okay.
Thanks.